Hello everybody, thank you very much for joining. Thank you so much for the people who are just coming in and taking the back seats at the back of the room. We'll let them squeeze in while we get started. So today we've got almost an hour together talking about what I'm calling people-powered AI. So this is using AI, but it's about humans and machines working together. So I want to make this quite an interactive session. So we've got the time together. We've got we've got people coming in even now, and we've got a room that's small enough that you can ask questions as we go, and I'll address as many of them as I can as we're going through. An hour ago, I was doing a presentation for another group. This one had about 650 people in the room in the meeting, so there's less chance for interaction. But given that you're here now, let's make the most of it and the time that we've got together. Okay, I can see people still coming in, which is nice. That's really good. Okay, so my 3 rules of engagement for all my sessions. Some people have seen them before, but I can see some unfamiliar names in here. So I wanted this to be engaging, but I want to give you things to think about as we're going through the session, and not just things to think about now and things that you think you can do, but think a bit big in this session. So think about things that perhaps are beyond what you think are practical or feasible in your workplace, but it's easy to think that way and then step them back rather than the other way around. This is very much a session for leaders, and it's as I've called it, people-powered AI. You might want to think of it as AI-powered people. It's about how we're going to work together with AI. So the second thing I'd like you to do is be playful as we're going through this session. So ask questions as we go, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as I'm doing now, and I will make sure that I answer questions as they come in. But also feel free to, but when I have some questions for you, be playful and jump in as well. I have got some things that I've got interactive things for you to do. If we're recording this, if you're watching the recording, hello to you. You don't get to take part in the interactive bits, but I'm sure you'll still get value from it. But if you're here in the room, please make the most of the time that we've got together. And most importantly, I'd love you to have some things that you can take away and put into action. So let's get started on people-powered AI. And it's really about empowering your people to embrace the future, specifically today about AI. And I really want to focus on these 2 words, about empowering. So it is about people, and it's not just about how AI is going to come into your organization. And the second thing, it's about embracing the future. So looking at opportunities with AI rather than just being worried about it and scared about it. So just to get started, I'd like to know, how do you feel about AI? And can you just use the emoji reactions in your screen, just to give me an emoji of how you feel about AI? I'm curious to know in the room, so the people who've got thumbs up, excited, just looking around the room to see what people are saying. Love it, good. Try to embrace it. I see some people typing in the chat as well, great. Okay, good. So it's good to see that people are generally positive about AI, which is something that over the last 6 months in particular, I've seen the sentiment change. So I always ask in my keynote presentations when I'm speaking in front of groups, I ask people 3 questions. I say, how many people are excited about AI? Some people put up their hands. How many people are scared about AI, so worried about AI? Some people put up their hands. And how many people are unsure about AI? And some people put up their hands. And then I say, how many people put up their hand 3 times? And it always gets a bit of a laugh, but I think it's really important, because we should be putting up our hand 3 times. We should be excited about it, we should be appropriately cautious about it, and we should be unsure about it. So part of AI learning journey is that it is a journey, and nobody knows what AI is going to look like in 5 years' time, or maybe not even in 2 years' time. So it's about being excited and curious and appropriately cautious around it. And that's why the people side of it is so important. So, quick quiz question. I've done this a couple of times in the last month, but let's see how many people know this. So, 2025 is it's an anniversary year for AI. I got ChatGPT to generate this picture. Happy birthday, AI. It should probably be a happy anniversary, but you can see that it already had trouble spelling the word birthday and even happy, so I didn't want to ask it to spell anniversary. But can I ask you, how many years old do you think AI is now? So just type in the chat, how old do you think AI is in years? Just have a guess. 1, 2, 5, 20, 25, 30. So 30 is the biggest so far, or the oldest so far. I know we've got a 40 in here. So this is actually the 70th anniversary of AI. So the first AI conference was held in the 1950s, just a bunch of blokes in a room in the US, and they invented the term artificial intelligence to talk about this new way about thinking about computers. And if you know anything about the history of computing, that was pretty early in the history of computers, and now it's been around for 70 years. Of course, most of us have only known it in the last couple of years. For myself, when I did study computer science at the University of Western Australia, my computer science thesis was in AI. So I like to say I've been following and tracking AI since the 1900s. But of course, for most of us, and I'm not surprised that people saying it's only 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 years old, because the launch of ChatGPT brought it into everybody's consciousness. And now we have literally at our fingertips access to this really powerful AI tool. And so this is what I want to talk about today. How do we as people engage with AI in our workplaces? And as I said, this is specifically for leaders and managers. What are you doing to bring AI not only into your organization, but also into your team? For me, when I work with clients, especially with leadership groups, I look at AI at 3 levels. And I offer 3 things generally. Is we start with what I call the AI Leaders Lab. So go in and I work with a group, the group of senior leaders in the organization, to help them understand what AI is, what it means for their industry, what impact it could have on the organization, and then think about how they want to roll it out. Quite often, the first thing they want to do is for me to run a session about how to use AI at work, in your workplace. This is for all staff, or maybe selected staff if they're doing a pilot project, but I like it to be all staff. And then the thing that really gets me excited is the organization or the business chooses AI champions for each of their teams. And then the champions are the ones who are championing AI for their teams. And it's like what I do is I bring them together. We work on projects for 3 to 4 months, and then these are actual real life projects that add value to the organization. So the reason I'm sharing this with you now is not just to tell you what I do, but today we're going to we're kind of going to cover each of these 3 areas. We haven't got time to go into each of them in depth, but can I suggest for you, whether you think about bringing me into your organization or not, that you think about these 3 levels for empowering your people with AI. So one is talk at your leadership level about what AI means for your organization. Then make sure that people are educated and comfortable with using AI in their workplace, and then work on these AI projects. So we'll talk about what that can be, what that can look like, and whether or not you bring me into your teams. This is all part of a bigger conversation around the future of work. And there's lots of conversations happening now about the future of work. And I think you can think about the future of work as 4 pillars. So the first one is to figure out what work's coming up in the future. This is the assess phase. The second stage is then, how do you attract the right people to work in your organization? How do you find, nurture, and keep the best people in your organization? And the third one is looking at how humans and machines are working together. For knowledge workers, it's humans and AI. For other workers, it might be humans and robots. And the last bit, which is everybody's responsibility, as like every leader, every manager, is to create a team that's not just open to change but embraces change? How do you create a culture of change agents? Okay, so all of those four things make up broadly the future of work. Today, obviously, we're going to focus on this one here about augmenting, and there'll be some overlap with this other area here, which is about building a culture that's embracing change. Because with something like AI that's moving so quickly, we absolutely need to embrace change. So I'm going to talk about your AI adoption or integration at 4 levels, and we'll touch on couple of them in detail and a couple of them just very briefly. So the lowest level, the base level, the starting point is people using AI in their personal lives, and more people are doing that now, whether or not they're bringing it to work. The next level is, are they using it in their professional role? So individually, are they using it at work to help them in their job? The next level is where the AI champions come in. Have you got small teams of people running AI projects that add value to your organization? And the highest level is the organization or the industry using AI as a platform for the work that they do. And there are multiple ways of doing that. I'll give you some examples of that to help you understand what I mean by platform. Today, we're going to spend most of our time in those 2 middle levels, because I think for most leaders, this is where you're going to get your biggest return on investment, helping your people use AI at a professional level and helping your people use AI to create projects that create value for your team and maybe even for the whole organization. One of the things I always do in these public presentations is I share with you some of the new, what's new in AI. And it's not about the technology today because we're talking about people. Let me share with you some people news in the AI space. So one thing that you may have seen, there's been some news about this. You may have seen this, and this is the most hyped headline I've seen around it. AI is making you dumber, Microsoft researchers say. This is some research done by Microsoft and Carnegie Mellon University, where they looked at that. You may have seen it phrased as AI reduces your critical thinking skills. Okay, and of course, all the naysayers are saying, this is proof that AI reduces your critical thinking skills. Now, fortunately, you've got me to dig into the research in more depth so that you don't have to. And the research actually doesn't say that. First of all, it's not making you dumber. And even though the headlines are around reducing critical thinking skills, the research says people who use AI and trust the AI to give them the right results, they then apply less critical thinking to the results that they get. The people who don't trust the AI as much, they are the ones who will actually use their critical thinking skills more. So actually, it's not about reducing your critical thinking skills, it's about trust. So it would be like me saying, having a trusted staff member reduces your critical thinking skills. No, it doesn't. If you trust her, then of course you trust that what she's doing is you trust her to exercise good judgment, and then you don't have to apply as much review and assessment and monitoring of the work that she does. So yes, you could say it reduces your critical thinking skills, but in a good way. The problem is that with AI is that most people, or many people, don't know that AI can make up things, can be wrong, can have bias built in. So in that case, the reason that it's a problem is that people are not using their critical thinking skills when they should. So part of that, the solution to that is education. It's not about getting rid of the AI. Here's another news story that I saw in the last week. The UK Technology Secretary is asking ChatGPT for science and media advice. And this is like some breaking news, Watergate kind of scandal. And of course, you'd expect people to be using AI as part of their informed decision making. So it would be ridiculous to see a headline that says Technology Secretary uses Google. And yet, that's the way we should be thinking about AI. We should be using it in our everyday work. One last example, the New South Wales Supreme Court and the Chief Justice banned the use of AI for lawyers in New South Wales. I was amazed. This is actually, I heard about this story because I did some work for a law firm, and they said, oh, in New South Wales, we're banned from using AI for Supreme Court cases. And actually, saner heads have prevailed, and just a couple of days ago it said that the ban has been overturned, or at least relaxed, because it was seen as something that was ridiculous. Lawyers should be allowed to use AI. They should just be careful about where they're using AI. Okay, so there's still a lot of negative bias and negative sentiment around AI. And in most cases, the solution to this is education rather than banning AI or even putting strict policies in place. You want education so that you can put guidelines in place instead of policies. Okay, so let's look at these 4 areas. We're going to do them from the top down, but I'm going to start with personal because it is one that we can get out of the way quickly, because most people are already using AI in their personal life. Okay, maybe not in their professional life yet, but now tools like ChatGPT have been around for more than 2 years, and people are using them regularly in their personal life. Okay, not everybody yet, but the research says that lots of people are using it. In their professional life, which we'll get to, not so much yet. In Australia, there's still a high uptake of people using AI at work. It's around 75% of people are using AI at work. But there's some interesting research from, this is a workplace research company, actually workplace company, Slack. You may know the Slack software, but they do a bunch of research, and they do an AI survey, and this is from their latest survey. It's a global survey, but they also break it down by country. So in Australia, what they found was that most people are using AI at work, but 42% of them, so almost half the people, are uncomfortable about admitting it to their managers, admitting that they're using AI at work. So can I ask you in the chat, why do you think people were uncomfortable? And then I'll share with you the top 3 results that people said why they felt uncomfortable telling their boss that they were using AI at work. Okay, so why do you think? What do you think? Cheating? They don't trust that the info is safe? They think you're lazy? Cheating? Yeah, the trust isn't there. Work culture's not. They're concerned about the consequences, yeah? They don't want to give the impression that they can't think for themselves. Okay, so, yes, you've got 2 out of 3. I think you may have even got 3 out of the top 3 answers. So the top 3 reasons that people gave were, 1, they felt that they would be seen as less competent if they had to rely on AI. Then the example that lots of people have already said, the other reason is that they felt that they were being lazy, that the boss would think they're being lazy. And the third one is that the boss would think they were cheating. So all of these, that negative bias about AI, that there's a perception of bias in people's heads, even if you think, if you're their manager and leader and you think we should be rewarding for people using AI, just be aware that 2 out of 5 of your team members might think differently from you. So there's a perception gap that you want to overcome. So first of all, encourage people to use AI as much as possible, and even in their personal roles. Okay, so that's the only thing I want to say about personal, because lots of people are using it, and they might even be using it at work and not telling you because they're worried about what that might mean for their career and your perception of them. Okay, so now let's look at these other 3 areas, from the platform, projects, and professional. And for each of them, we'll, as we go, we'll stop, and at the end of each, and if you've got any questions, type them in the chat. Feel free to type them in the chat as we're going, and when we get to questions, I'll look through what you've typed in. Okay, so platform. So what I mean by platform is that AI becomes an integral part of what you're doing in your workplace. And it may not just be for your business, it might be industry-wide. So I'm speaking with insurance companies, and they're saying, I've got a client in the next couple of weeks, and they're saying our organization, our business, is using AI to speed up the claims process. So then we, as a claims processor, can then help like use the AI. So the AI is helping us, and then it speeds up the process of us going through the claim. But the AI does a lot of the heavy lifting for us. I'll give you some other examples. In healthcare, there was a story from about this time last year that said that AI nurses are available. And of course, the headline says for $9 an hour. Now, these are not robot nurses like this. These are actually patients who are using AI on through a tablet. So they're speaking to an AI avatar, and they can ask questions, and the AI will respond with non-clinical information. For things that it can't support, especially clinical things, it says, I don't know the answer to that, please speak to the nurse. But this is something that's taking away the heavy lifting from the nurses so that they can do their higher level things. Speaking to a conference organizer recently, and she says that they're using AI on their event app where you can chat and ask questions about the program, about which room, what time the dinner's on, stuff that that often the conference organizer gets asked. So it's taking that burden away from her and her team so that they can do the stuff that only the humans can do. Here's another interesting example which is very current for us in Australia with bushfires. There's a research that's being done. I think the University of Western Sydney is doing this research, scanning satellite images with AI to detect bushfires before they get started, and they can do a better job than people on the ground, because people on the ground obviously don't have the same high level perspective as satellite images. Here's an example in retail. This actually happened to me about probably 8 years ago now. I went to a conference in Melbourne where there was this guy, one of the exhibitors, who was scanning your face and creating a 3D virtual avatar of it. His business is he's got a studio in Melbourne. I think he said he's got 78 cameras. He takes a photo and creates a full body 3D image that you could then use in online spaces, what we now call the metaverse. He didn't have the full setup, so he could do your face, but of course I signed up for that, and a day later he sent me this avatar. But now that's being used where you can go into a booth, scan yourself, and use it for things like online shopping, so that things fit your body shape and style and your preferences when you shop online. Let me give you some other examples, again with organizations I've been working with recently or will work with, just to give you an example of the range of things that are happening. One in waste management is there's a company in Spain has set up these devices that you stick on the front of your bins, and it monitors what waste you're putting in there, and there's an app that rewards you. It gamifies recycling, and it uses AI to help incentivize people to recycle. In the insurance space, there's companies like UE in Australia where you can optionally have the UE app running while you're driving, and it detects your driving skills, and based on that it can lower your premium or presumably raise your premium. There's a company in South Korea that's taken that to the next level, and using AI again, it's used in that premium assessment, but it's also used to gamify it, so you get points for good driving, and that goes to, you can earn loyalty points and get free coffees every month or so. So that's again using AI built into insurance. So it's the insurer that's doing it, because obviously fewer claims is better for the insurance company. In hospitality and tourism, I work with an organization recently around this. There's one hotel group that's using AI to improve their facilities. And the way they do it is that they use AI to analyze the reviews, like Google reviews, if you like, of people who've stayed at the hotel. And based on the sentiment and actually the things that people talk about and complain about, they've used AI to make some recommendations for improving their facilities, their amenities, the service, whatever they do, whatever the experience they provide. One last example. Energy. There's a lot of work happening in the energy space now, especially around clean energy and recycling and sustainability. And there's a company in Germany that's using AI to build better solar panels. It's not only to build it, but to improve the process, to make the process more energy efficient as well. Okay, so that's what I want to talk about in terms of platform. I'm going to stop for questions, but before I do that, one of the things I want to say with all of those platform examples is that when you think about AI as a platform and what does that mean for our people, in many cases, the AI, you don't get to interact much with the AI. The AI is doing that work, like suggesting a change to a customer's premium, or providing some advice, or automatically only recommending clothes for a certain size and shape. So the people are involved, but the AI platforms do most of the work. So it's not quite passive, but it's not as active as the next two things we're going to talk about. Okay, any questions about that? I've given you time to ask questions. Zarana said amazing. I think that was one of the examples. Maybe it was it the retail example, Zarana, with the 3D avatars? Maybe. Okay, let's look at this next section here. This is the one that I really like the most. I get most excited about this. And it used to be, so let's go back to the previous slide. So AI projects. I used to mostly get excited about the professional level because that's where you get your quick wins. It's still the case that you can get quick wins, which is why I want to talk about that. But also now, AI is matured enough and AI adoption and understanding is matured enough that I'm seeing more and more people doing AI projects. So as I said, when I run my AI accelerator, we talk about leadership first, then everybody using AI at work, which is the professional bit, which we'll get to. But this third bit is where you get teams together. It could be your team or a little subset of your team to work on a project led by an AI champion that creates value for your team and maybe even for your whole organization. So let me show you what I mean by that. First of all, what does value mean? And I reckon there are four things that you should look for, one or more of these four things, when you're looking at identifying an AI project. So I'll show you some AI projects soon, but let me talk about these four things first. First is money. Does it make money for us, increase our revenue, if that's part of your business model, or does it save money for us? That's the money side of it. The second one is time. Is it going to save time or boost productivity? The third one is well-being. Does it improve our employees' well-being? Or the other side of that, does it reduce stress and anxiety in some way? And the last one is engagement. So internally, that would be internal employee engagement. Externally, it would be customer or client engagement or external stakeholder engagement. So when you think about an AI project, look at these four criteria, these four measurements, metrics, for what the project is going to achieve. And sometimes it's more than one of those four. By the way, there is a fifth one as well. The fifth one, which is not the outcome, but the process. By going through the process, you also help build AI skills in your team. And this is going to be something that's going to be increasingly important for teams everywhere, that we're in the position that we are always building our AI skills. So the mere fact that you're doing these projects, regardless of how successful they are, they will help people become more comfortable with AI, more confident with AI, being okay with experimenting with it, failing and then trying again, finding a better solution. Okay, so let's have a look at some AI projects. These are some examples that I have done with clients, and clients have given me permission to share. So I'm just going to share three specific examples, and I hope that'll inspire some ideas for you about projects that you can run. This is a tour company. I won't say which the company is, but what they do is they have diving tours. So people come from all around Australia to do diving tours in this location. And what they do now is they had an AI project where I'm sure people come and they do diving, but also when they come, they also want to do other things around they might have a week and they want to do other things apart from just diving. So this tour company has partnered with other local tourism and hospitality operators and is offering other things. And what they do, this AI project, is they ask their customers when they make a booking, they must do a Google form or something, they ask them what they're interested in, and then the AI will put together a draft itinerary for, let's say, a family of four who's coming to mainly for a diving holiday, but also an itinerary of other things that they could do while they're there. Okay, so the AI part of it is they've got an AI project where they put in the customer's information, what they're interested in, what sort of family they are, or whether they're coming by themselves or just with a partner, and the AI will create a draft itinerary, which then this company will have somebody who looks over it, reviews it, and then sends it out to the customer as an additional a better experience for the customer, an additional service they're offering. I don't know whether they have some sort of referral commissions with the people that they recommend, but even if they don't, it's still a valuable service that they're offering for their customers. Okay, the next one, I'm going to kind of give you a range of these here. This is an HR chatbot. Oh, actually, this came from an idea that I was sharing of something that I do in my own business. So let me share that with you. So I was sharing that with this group, and then somebody said, oh, I work in HR, we can use this. So here's example. So I'll show you the example here, and you may get some inspiration from it as well. By the way, chatbots are a really simple AI project to do. They're nice, simple, self-contained projects. They're not expensive to do, and it's easy for a team to create a chatbot for you. Here's one that I created on my own website. So I have a product that some clients buy. I'm not trying to sell it to you here, but it's called Fresh Ideas for Better Meetings, and it's an online resource center with 52 different activities that you as a leader or a manager can do with your team. And they're under different categories like innovation, better decisions, learning and growth, and so on. And it came out of people said to me, we'd love to take some of the things that you did in your workshop and run them with our team. Can you give us some ideas? So I created this product around it. So there's 52 of them, coincidentally the same as the number of weeks in the year, but it's not set up as you get one every week. You can dip in at any time and choose the ones that you're interested in. So you can do it by category, but recently we've added a new feature where you've got an AI chatbot. And it says, let's add a spark of engagement and innovation. What's a problem you're currently experiencing? Let's say, my people are resistant to change. Okay, so what our chatbot does is it looks through those 52 modules and it says if somebody's got this problem that they've identified, which of the modules would be most useful to them? Okay, and it says the Disrupt Yourself module is a good one. The Grit module is a good one. I don't know how many it's going to show here, so we'll stop after 3. Trust Them is a good one. Okay, and then it's a chatbot. I'm sure you've seen chatbots on lots of different websites and apps. So the idea here is that this chatbot is only going to respond based on the content of the 52 modules that we've uploaded into it. Okay, so that's the example of the Better Meetings one. I'm not trying to sell you this product, but I want to make the point that when we did this, when I demonstrated this as an example of AI in use to this group of people, as I said, somebody in HR said, this is a great idea. Why don't we do this for all our HR documents? So they said, we've got all this complex processes and systems and regulations, government-imposed regulations, our own internal processes around HR, and it's all really useful information, but because it's been built up over time, it's all quite messy and cluttered. It's difficult for people to find their way around. And they were going to invest in hiring some consultants to come in and clean up their whole system. Instead, they ran an AI project to create a chatbot which would do essentially what I was showing you here with Better Meetings. It would work on the documents that were already in the HR system, and employees could type in the chatbot and say, I've got this problem. Let's say I've applied for leave last week, but I didn't take that day's leave. How do I get that leave back? And you ask the chatbot and it would search the documents and then give the person a link to the appropriate document and the place in the document where they could find out the steps they go through to solve that problem. So it's a really good example of a chatbot being applied internally to help reduce clutter. And I think that's a really useful part of a chatbot. So the example I gave you earlier about conference organizers where delegates at a conference have got an event app and they could look in the app to see what time the gala dinner's on the Friday night, but sometimes they don't bother or they can't find it. But if there was a chatbot where they could ask that question, the chatbot could give them the answer, or even better, refer them to the answer. Okay, so that's an example of AI being used as to create a chatbot. Okay, so any questions about that? I've got one more example to show you, but I just want to see if there's any other questions around this. So Droxy.ai is the name of the chatbot software. So the third example came with another organization I was working for. This is an organization that does a whole bunch of community services. They do aged care, they do childcare, they do some disability services. And I was working with their team, and what we had was we had that first session where we did the AI champions in 2 sessions. In the first session, each of the teams came up with an idea, and then the second session, they presented their idea. So one of the teams, which is a childcare team, they said, every time we have a new child admitted into our childcare center, we have to create a development plan for them. And it takes about 2 or 3 hours. And so what this team did was they put together and they found an AI solution for some software, which they didn't even know about the software, but they asked ChatGPT for the best software to solve this problem. And they created some software that would create, within about 15 minutes, a development plan. It actually took less than 15 minutes. It probably took about 3 minutes for the AI to do its work, but took some time for them to type in some information about the child, and then what their preferences are, what their development needs might be. It would create the plan, and then it took about 10 minutes for an expert to review the plan to make sure it was right and appropriate. So they did this, and so they cut down what used to take them 3 hours to 15 minutes. Even better, when they shared that idea at the second session, when everyone was sharing what idea they came up with, the childcare team said, "This is our idea," and somebody in HR said, "This is fantastic. We need the same thing. Can we talk to you? Because we want to do the same thing when we're onboarding new employees." Somebody in aged care said, "This is fantastic because we need to do the same thing when we have a new resident who becomes a resident of one of our aged care homes." So the same idea, other teams had a different application of it. So part of this is building AI champions and having the champions lead these projects, but also part of it is sharing the ideas through the organization so that you cross-fertilize some of those ideas. Okay, the name of the software, that was for the previous one, so I won't answer that. So the question I've got for you is, who are your AI champions in your team? And if you're a leader in the team, and I assume you are because that's why you're here today, then look for AI champions in your team. And it may not be you, and it probably shouldn't be you, because you've already got lots of other things on your plate. But what you're looking for is somebody who's excited, enthusiastic, and is really keen to lead the AI initiatives in your team. And what you want is, if you're a senior leader, what you want to do is have all your leaders in your organization find AI champions for their teams. Because there are 2 ways to adopt AI in your organization. There's a top-down approach where the senior leaders get together, the executive, maybe even at a board level, and they decide what needs to be done with AI. They invest in the infrastructure, they create strict policies, they bring in external consultants, they get it perfect, and then that propagates through the organization. You can do that if you've got a lot of resources. PwC took that approach. They invested $1 billion a couple of years ago to make PwC an AI-driven organization. And so they created their own chatbot called Chat PwC with all the PwC documents. They had lots of training for staff. They had mentoring. They have people available that you can call on if you're getting stuck on anything. So they did it top down and throughout the whole organization. Now, there might be some people here in the room who don't have $1 billion in their budget. So in that case, I reckon the bottom-up approach is better. So enable, support, facilitate each of your teams to have their AI champions who are doing these projects. And that way, you get people comfortable with AI, they're confident using AI, and they actually start using AI in practice. So even if you've got the top-down approach as well, nothing wrong with that, when you start sharing some of the ways that you're using AI at a platform level, let me show you that. when you start using it at a platform level, people are comfortable with it and they're more open to it because they've already used it. And not only have they used it in a training context, but they've actually used it to create value for you, your team, and your organization. Okay, so we're going to talk about professional now, but I think getting them working on projects is the sweet spot if you've got people comfortable using AI. So a year ago, I was telling leaders, do this the other way around. Get people using it in the professional role first so they get comfortable with it, and then they're better equipped to do these projects. That might still be true for you, but it doesn't have to be. It might be that you're at the point where people are using it in their personal life, and now I'm going to get them to run some AI projects. Okay, so questions. So Zorana's question, what's the best approach to deal with comments from staff who are fearful that AI will take their jobs? Yeah, so the best way to do it is to educate them and show them that it won't. Okay, so when they use these projects, all those examples of projects that I've showed you, that AI is not taking away a job. In fact, it's taking away a part of the job that the person didn't want to do. So things like the chatbot, which would answer questions that the conference organizer, well, they want to do it because they want to serve their delegates and their customers, but they didn't really want to do it. If an AI would do that, they'd be happy doing the other stuff which they're best equipped to do. What is the other example? Doing a development plan. So childcare specialists, they want to spend their time looking after the children that they were in the childcare centre. The development plan is important and it's essential to get started, but if the AI can do the heavy lifting in that, then that's better. It's a better experience. Okay, so that's what you're looking at. So AI is not necessarily going to take away your jobs, but you can use AI to make your job better. And Zorana, the thing is, I can say that, you can say that, anyone can say that till the cows come home. People will only believe it when they start seeing it in action. And that's why these projects and this professional one, which we're just about to get to, is so valuable, because you're not just telling them AI won't take your jobs, you're giving them real examples of how AI can help them do their job better. Okay, let me continue. In fact, Zorana's question leads into this last area here. This is a professional role. So this is using AI, not necessarily on a one-off project that you do that then creates value, ongoing value, but it's using AI in your role in general. And again, like lots of people are using AI. In Australia, it's like 75% of people are using AI at work, but not everybody is yet. And so Zorana's question about people are fearful of AI taking their jobs, it's a valid question and it's a valid concern for people, even if it might not be completely true. It doesn't mean that people aren't worried about it. And let me tell you about my niece, Abby. So Abby's just turned 20. And when she was probably, 3 years ago, 16 going on 17, she learned to drive. And I taught her how to drive. Now, I didn't do all of her lessons, but the first 10 or 12 hours, the most important ones, when she's operating heavy machinery in public for the first time, I was the one that took her out and did those driving lessons. And you might know in Australia, all around Australia, the rules are a little bit different in each state, but they're much more rigorous for you to be able to get your driver's license. The process is much more rigorous than it was like 30 plus years ago, more than 30 years ago for me, when I was getting my license. You have to do, in Western Australia, you have to do 50 hours of supervised driving before you can even do the test, the practical exam. And so Abby was really good. Like she, after those first 12 hours, I handed her back to her parents, and they helped her supervise her driving. So she would drive at day, she would drive at night, she would drive on the freeways, she would drive to school with her dad in peak hour traffic. So by the time she was ready, she was really good, and she got her license straight away. And lots of people obviously helped her get a license, but obviously most of the credit for getting a license goes to me. It goes to Abby, because she put in the work, and she was, by the time she sat the exam and now has got a license and is driving, she was already a competent driver by the time she got her license, which is exactly what you want. And I think the same's true with AI. You want your people who are using AI to be competent drivers when they're using it, especially when they're using it for doing AI projects. By the way, those groups, especially the group that I'm trying to think, all three groups who did the AI projects that I showed you earlier, this was like some of them were more than a year ago, and people hadn't yet got that same level of AI adoption. And all of those three groups, they were pretty much novices when they started with AI, but I reckon some of them couldn't even spell AI, and yet they created these projects within 3 or 4 months that created real value. Now we've got the advantage of helping people become competent. And what you want is not that they know everything about AI, but when they use AI at work, whether it's in their day-to-day role or it's in the ongoing of doing an AI project, they don't need to know everything, but you need to be confident that you can say, I trust your judgment. Team, AI champion, to everyone in my team. Okay, so you want people to be at that level. And that doesn't mean that you just leave them to go off and do it and go, I'll trust whatever you do. There may be some work in giving them guidelines. There may be some work where they're checking in with you, or they check in with you before you do something, or they check in with milestones along the way in the projects. But one of the things you can do to help build that judgment is to get people doing it in their day-to-day roles. So here's some research that was done a couple of months ago by Google and Ipsos. They did a global AI survey, and they've also broken it down by country. And so good news for us in Australia, I think most of us here in Australia, is that almost 3/4 of people are using AI at work. What do you think they're using AI for the most? Just type in the chat. In terms of using AI to help them, this is broadly speaking, so it's not in insurance or healthcare or a specific industry. What do you think they're using AI for most? Email? Definitely. Generative AI? Yes, so generative AI, Peter, is quite broad. So they're using, let's assume they're using things like generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Copilot. But what are they using it for? Reports? Research? Designing courses? Okay, so I think that's maybe in your organization. Yeah, improving documents. Yeah, so the sort of things that people are saying in the chat, exactly right. These are the sort of things they're using it for. The number one is for writing. And improving their writing. The couple of the others that didn't come up here but were high in this report, in the research, was using it for brainstorming and for problem solving. So there are lots of people who are using AI to generate stuff, whether it's reports or drafting an email or refining an email, but also people are using it for innovation, creativity, problem solving, which it really can be used for, those purposes. And if you haven't used it in those situations, so if you have used it, you go, yeah, I can see that. If you haven't used it, then can I suggest that you do? Okay, so for example, if you have a problem that is something like, I'm going to be late we're going to be late with our project. Can you craft a conversation for me to have with my manager to talk about the fact that we're going to miss a deadline? An example that came up just a couple of days ago, I was doing a keynote presentation, online keynote presentation for an organization that was looking at career development for their people, and especially adopting a learning mindset. And one of the questions that came up was, I've got all these ideas for improving my career and building my career, but my manager just doesn't seem that interested or excited about it. Not that she's resisting it, but she's not excited about it. What do I do? Okay, and so we did that as an exercise with ChatGPT, and we tried a few prompts in the session that I was delivering. One of them, we thought, let's be creative here, and the prompt was along the lines of, give me 20 things that I can say to my manager to convince him that helping me with my career is going to be good for his career as well. Okay, and sure enough, the AI ChatGPT came up with a list of 20 things. And not all of them are relevant, but we said, here are 20 things now to this person that you can take away and figure out which of those, you might find 3 that are going to be useful for motivation for your boss, not just for you. And then, of course, you can dig further into that and say, if I use this number 3, then what are the objections that my manager might give and how can I respond to those objections? So it's really useful for things like, I gave an example there of brainstorming, even though that's not the technical definition of brainstorming, but idea generation, and also for problem solving. So think about using it in those contexts. So Zorana's question, can you put a PowerPoint slide into AI and ask it to improve it? Yeah, Zorana, try it, see what happens. Okay, see what you get, and how you prompt it. You might want it to improve the design, you might want to improve the content, and so on. Okay, so prompt it and try it out. In fact, when I do keynote presentations or do AI presentations for clients, one of the things that I do is I give them an ebook that I've created, about 50 AI prompts, and says 50 for ChatGPT, but actually it works for all the other tools, Copilot or Perplexity or whatever you choose to use. It used to be 50, I've now increased it to 100, and the reason for that is because I give that to people to download and use, and the biggest feedback that I get from that is not, oh, that's amazing, I never thought of writing a prompt that way. You don't need to be a geeky person or an expert in prompting AI. You need to experiment a bit and you get better as you do, but that wasn't the most common feedback. The most common feedback I get from this ebook is, I never even thought of using AI that way. Okay, so that's the reason I expanded it from 50 to 100, because it's just prompts in different areas, whether it's learning, your career, it's about PR, it's about marketing. So put things in different categories just to get people thinking, I never thought about using AI that way. Okay, so we're getting close to the end. In fact, we're right on track. So let me stop and let me answer questions that are coming in here. Yes, is there a risk with the content being available to others if uploaded to AI? There is, Nicole. Depending on what tool you use, there are ways to reduce or remove that risk. So I'll give you one example. ChatGPT has an option in your settings that says turn off the option that says improve. So the word they use is improve the model for everyone. What they really mean is give us permission to use your data. You can turn that option off. Okay, the other AI tools have something similar, but you should always read the terms and conditions of using those tools. Okay. Steve's question, in a school, staff write... Yeah, so again, Steve, the question's around privacy. Yeah, that's right. So today I won't get into the details of that. I know Steve quite well, so if you want to take that question offline, Steve, you're welcome to do that. But because I want to talk about, rather than the technology, I want to talk about enabling your people to do that. But again, one of the things that leads me to another point I want to make, when you do these AI projects, it's useful to start with prototypes. Like that example of the childcare centre that was doing, that created those development plans. So that group went away. So we had 2 sessions, and between them there were about 4 weeks. So they went away and they developed a prototype using dummy information. So they obviously didn't put in real children's information into the prototype. They went away and found some different AI software, completely different than the organization approved. So the organization approved Copilot. They went out and found Notion. Notion.ai would do this. They investigated it, did the prototype in Notion, brought it back, presented it to the group, and now that the organization is adopting it, now they're taking it within the organization. IT is getting involved. They're doing it in the right way with Copilot. They're enabling the right sort of features of Copilot to protect privacy and confidentiality. So when you're doing these AI projects, start with prototypes that kind of operate outside the approved system, as long as you're aware that you're using data that's dummy data. Okay, but obviously this is something that you also, I can't tell you what you can and can't do and what you should and shouldn't do, but one way to do it is with prototypes, but also make sure it fits within the organization's guidelines. It's easy to get buy-in for an AI project if you say we're just going to do a prototype with dummy data, and then we'll show it to you, and anytime we're going to bring it in, we'll make sure we do it properly, and we'll bring in IT and everybody else who needs to be involved. Okay, Cynthia says, Catherine says, how do we get your ebook? Hire me, book me to speak at one of your events. And then this becomes part of the presentation package, Catherine. That is actually the way you can get it. It's not available for sale elsewhere. Cynthia says, learning to ask quality questions. Yeah. So the thing about asking questions, absolutely. So the more that you use it, the more that you get comfortable using it and being okay with asking just a basic question like, I'm having trouble with my boss. You'll get some weird responses to that. Well, you get some things that may or may not be relevant, and then you can ask more detailed questions, and you get better by using it. It's difficult to run an AI prompting course because AI is getting better very, very quickly. What you want to do is give your people access to AI so they learn as they're going, and this is true for you as well. Brilliant. Okay, so timing's perfect. So we talked about these 4 areas. I think the areas where you get the biggest value are with those 2 in the middle. So do AI projects if you think your people are ready to do that and they're ready to do that. And if not, get them working with AI at the professional level just to solve problems in their everyday work, writing reports, research, idea generation, and so on. I mentioned my AI Accelerator program. If anyone's interested in that, let's have a chat about that. And it doesn't have to be the whole program. You may just want me to come in to speak with your leaders about AI and what you should do for an AI strategy. You might want me to run a session for your staff about AI at work and showing them how to use AI, how to use some of the ChatGPT-like tools, but also others like Google Notebook and others. Or if you think you're ready, let's run some AI projects. Give me your champions and we'll run some AI projects to create some real value for you. Before I finish, I love this quotation from Benjamin Brewster in the 1800s. He said, a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I think, in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice, there is. So, my last message for you, don't wait for all your ducks to line up in a row. Don't wait till you're not busy anymore. Don't wait for the world to wait for you, because our world is really changing so fast. Start before you're ready. That's the best way to be fit for the future and to have people-powered AI. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for engaging. I'll send out the recording later as well. I'll see you in the future. Bye for now.